I think if I have a profession, it's got to be eating food. Arrow.net, ARROE.net. We are unplugged and totally uncut with Amanda Rettke.
I'm good. How are you?
Absolutely fantastic, and I am in the mood to fill up with some delicious homestead recipes.
Well, I'm excited for you. Unfortunately, I can't actually give you food, but we can talk about food and then think about food and not have the food in front of us. I just made myself sad.
You know, this book really touches me in the way that my mother grew up. They were in Sheridan, Wyoming, and she always talked about the homestead, what her mother always made. And so that's why this book means so much to me, because homestead recipes and cooking is really, that's my roots. And a lot of people need to understand it's probably part of their roots as well.
Yeah. So where did you grow up?
I grew up, I was born in Sheridan, Wyoming, but I grew up in Montana. But Mom it was always about homestead cooking to her.
That's amazing. Montana is gorgeous. Why did you ever leave?
Well, because
you're in.
It was a radio dream, and there's only 850,000 people in Montana. I needed millions. So I made the move.
Oh, okay. Your personality was bigger than the population.
Yeah.
Well, I actually looked into, because your name was fascinating. I love it. I love how it's spelled. So I had to go and listen and just dive into everything that you were doing. And you have this thing called the Daily Mess. Is that correct?
It's the Daily Mess where you sit down and you have a conversation with, this is what's going on in the world, and I can't be the only one. So let's just talk about it. Let's talk about how we can motivate each other.
So I was so fascinated by this concept. And I think that not only was it fascinating itself, but you took it a step further and you were encouraging to write daily too. And I think that changes the narrative a little bit. And I was like, this is something I have to pursue. So I'm starting this with you. You motivated me to be a part of the Daily Mess.
But then it grows into also what's called the Defrag Journal. And what the Defrag Journal is, and I would love to read your writing on this. First of all, we should never be afraid to release our writing to anybody because it doesn't belong to us. We just go through the experience. But a Defrag Journal allows you to ask yourself questions. For instance, like when you sit down or you go into the kitchen and you're going to make hamburger nachos, ask yourself questions. Ask yourself, why am I using this ingredient? What is this going to, and when you start asking yourself questions, that inner core of your creative mind begins to participate with reality.
So, yeah, okay. I am so on board with this, and I'm thinking about some of the recipes I did in the book, and you're forced to kind of ask yourself those questions. Yeah. And when it's coming from an external source, it wasn't as exciting. But when you get in the zone and are asking those questions of a recipe or of yourself, it changes the perspective and it changes the excitement level about what you're creating. And I can think of a very few recipes in the book that I did that specifically with. And you're absolutely right. It didn't belong to me. It was something that needed to be shared because there was someone somewhere that could identify with it. Yep. Or feel like it's a part of what they enjoy too. I hope.
Well, and see, because look at the changes that happened during the lockdown. How many people discovered they had a kitchen? I'm one of them. And all of a sudden I started doing soups. And it was it wasn't the typical, I'm going to pull it out of a can. No, I wanted to invent soups. I want to have a bus out there that makes soup for people every day because soup makes people happy.
So you think big all the time. Am I wrong?
I'm a Cancer, man. I was born in June. Come on.
Okay, so you go from wanting to eat and fulfill the need to I want a food truck and I want to create the recipes and feed the world. And I love that. And I feel like that's the funnest mind to be around is you don't just take the next step mentally. You take 50 leaps into the next big thing and you're there fully invested in it. I love it.
Well, you're the same way because look, you homestead recipes. You're actually feeding the world as well because you're giving people the opportunity to go visit the grocery store, to look deeper into what's available in that grocery store, and to ask for different things that may not be there.
I hope so. Yeah, and we like your mom talked about there's a lot to do with the land and the full circle of life aspect. And I only have 5 little humans that I'm kind of responsible for at this time in my life. But I really hope that they have an understanding, a full, complete understanding of where food comes from and what source, where it's sourced from, and how it serves a purpose in our lives. And not only like the function of it, but like the beauty of enjoying it. I'm hoping. And I hope some of that got into the book too, but I'll have to wait and see what people think.
You bring up an interesting point about where the food comes from. I've been on the Pacific Coast Highway out in California, Highway 1, and I think the best part of that adventure was getting away from the ocean and actually getting into the fields of where everything is coming from. That changed my life.
Really?
And the reason why is because it's in a grocery store. That's what I knew before that. But then we had fields and stuff up in Montana, but it wasn't like this. This was honest to God huge fields of lettuce and avocados and all that stuff. And I'm going, I had no clue that they grew it this much.
Yeah, right. And so California produces some of the most amazing food in abundance. So you've probably seen more than I've ever seen when it comes to that. We get a lot of views of corn.
Yes.
Lots of cornfields for hundreds and hundreds of miles at a time. That's a lot of the Midwest, and as you can probably tell, is in a lot of my recipes. But that comes from wanting to use the things that are available to us at all times, and be a good steward of what the land is providing.
Did you ever get out there and get lost in the cornfield on purpose, and you had to sit there and try to figure out which part of the field you were going to come out in?
A story instantly came to mind that I feel like I should never tell. Because I love Jesus so much, but growing up, we would get drunk and pass out in a cornfield.
Yes.
That's what we did.
So, you're right. We did that.
Familiar with it in a different.
Oh my God, you're so right about that. We did that in Montana as well. We had a relationship with that cornfield, and then when they would cut it down in the fall.
I mean, right, where were you going to go now? It was cool weather was coming, and now you had to find somebody's house. It was just a pain in the butt.
So now there's 110 amazing, authentic family recipes in Homestead Recipes. What the relationship with this book is that I swear I'm going to see readers go through the book, make their lists out, go to the grocery store, or better yet, I want them to go to a farmer's market. Doesn't this serve as a backstage pass to the farmer's market?
I don't know. We don't. Our farmers markets are pretty limited in their timing here. We have such a short season. Mm-hmm. That's such an interesting point you bring up, because I never really thought about it in that context. But I would hope so. I mean, I would hope that that's where people are going. Not only our farmers market, you're kind of cutting out the middleman there. You're going right to the source, but you're helping fund the people who are putting their hearts and souls into producing a product. So farmers market, if I ever go to a farmers market, the first thing I get is honey.
Oh, yes.
Because I feel like anyone that is investing their time and energy into working with bees, and like how beautiful and wonderful and abundant bees are, and then having locally sourced honey, that like the properties and what it does for your immune system. Yep. It's all just so fascinating. So thanks. Now I'm thinking about farmers market, and we won't have one for at least 2 months here.
Wow. Not.
You get them.
I'm sorry?
You get them like all year long?
All year long.
Where you are?
Oh, yeah. Yeah, we do.
Wow.
Yeah. And what's really cool is that the smaller cities and stuff like that, the communities come together. Yep. Every Saturday, everybody's going to the farmer's market. And and I guess I'm spoiled now. I mean, I wouldn't know what to do without one. But, about a quarter of a... I'm sorry?
Go ahead.
I was going to say that about a quarter of a mile from here, there's a bee farmer, and a lot of his bees have been in the backyard, but this year he put one of the nests up front. And my dog and I, when we're out there walking around, we'll just go sit there and just for the longest time just stare at the bees coming in and out. It's so fascinating to watch bees work.
You are absolutely right. And I'm not a huge fan of TikTok, but one of the things I love about TikTok is bee talk.
Yeah.
Because people break down like what they're doing and the relationship they have with the queen and how efficient bees are and how smart. I mean, it's they're their own highly functioning ecosystem. They understand how to deal with predators. They understand how to feed themselves. Like, it's this whole amazing thing, and it's so interesting to watch. I love that you get to do it in person. A little jealous.
Yeah.
And I have to watch it on my tiny phone. But
well, they're just fascinating in the way that they always feel like that they've got a pair of headphones on and they know exactly what they're doing. They're listening to their own vibes and all that kind of stuff. And it's like I want to be a bee.
I love the visual of them with their headphones on. Like, I'm just doing my job, man. Got this.
So where did you get the idea of putting zucchini in corn chowder? I mean, that right there is bringing. I mean, that you talk about. That's a cross pollination.
Oh my God. Okay, yeah. So we are prolific zucchini growers here in Minnesota. They say that, if you have one plant, you'll have 50 zucchini by the end of the summer. And we typically do, 10 to 12 individual plantings, but it is just a prolifically grown item. And I think one of the most underrated food items of all time. It is literally a godsend when it comes to baking. The moisture that it adds to baked goods is unequaled. And then in savory cooking, it takes on the flavor profile of the food that you're preparing it with in such a beautiful way. The zucchini itself can be subtle. It's never overpowering. It just depends on like what size that you're getting and what time you harvested the zucchini. But in corn chowder, it adds just a really unique element to it because corn in itself can be kind of one tone. Yep. It can be bland.
It's corn.
But when you add something, right? When you add something like zucchini to it, you get the option of having more texture, and you get the slightly sweet flavor that it can bring depending on how you prepare it. And if I could, like if I was listening to my heart, I would do all zucchini recipes all the time because there is nothing that it can't do in the food world. Yeah. And that's the hill I'm dying on right there.
We take zucchinis and what we'll do is we'll cut them up and put them in the air fryer, and then we have zucchini potato chips. And it's such the ultimate, like, like when you're jonesing for something that crunches, go for the air fryer, man. Do you think that has changed in the way of homestead recipes? Because I mean, it's like homestead to me is seeing my mom in front of that gigantic big old pot making her own sauerkraut and stuff like that. I mean, is the air fryer going to destroy things?
No, I don't think so. I love the air fryer with a passion. And I mean, essentially it's just a convection oven, but who is, out cooking their food over an open fire? Nobody is.
Right.
Well, we do sometimes, but the air fryer is so convenient, especially in climates where you don't want to turn on your oven all the time. And homesteading in itself is doing for oneself. And I kind of wrote about in the book how I'm not the traditional homesteader. I'm not raising my own bees currently and eating only the food off the land I still go to the store. I still buy Oreos because I love Oreos so much. But I love the idea of constantly growing into a mindset of wanting to try and provide for oneself in a way. And it's not like doomsday prepping to the extent of it's feeling secure in your independence and being able to survive and then thrive with what you have available, with the skill set that you're learning and growing into.
I love that word, growing.
That was a really complex answer to, do you think air fryers are.
See, that's what you put into your daily mess. You write about it, and then people go, "Yeah, yes. Oh my God! Now I've got a spiritual connection to my air fryer. This is awesome."
Oh gosh, I apologize to your audience.
I got to tell you, Amanda, until I moved to the Carolinas, I thought asparagus grew beside everybody's ditches. I mean, I didn't know you bought it in a grocery store. We just went to the ditch, and we would just sit there and cut it wild.
Are you kidding?
I mean, it was always free to us up there in Montana. That and rhubarb. Rhubarb is the same thing. I mean, we would just go jump into somebody's backyard, raid their garden, and steal the rhubarb.
Yeah, absolutely. That is another big one that you having some type of homestead experience would be part of. Rhubarb, like another underrated. Is it a fruit? Is it a fruit? Well, or is it a vegetable?
Well, wait a second. When I go to the grocery store, it's over there by the roots. Like with the ginger and stuff like that. And I've always thought, well, wait a second. This is not a rooted plant, but why is it in the root section?
That's so interesting. I wonder. Well, they also put eggs with milk, and so everyone thinks that eggs are dairy. I mean, don't even get me started.
And why is the cream cheese by the bacon? I don't understand the cream cheese and bacon thing, man. There's no relationship there.
Well, you're going to have to get used to it because I have it all over that book. I want you to try at the very least the little Smokies, bacon wrapped little Smokies with cream cheese.
Oh my God! Well,
I can't even apologize for the amount of cream cheese in the book.
Well, I mean, bacon is like the ultimate food. I was just watching Shark Tank last night, and they now have a bacon that's actually made from from seaweed, and it's like, what? I got it. Bacon is like the ultimate treat.
So does that sound good to you? Or?
Well, Robert on Shark Tank spit it out immediately, and I thought, I don't know. But then again, he just may have different taste buds.
I am definitely a purist when it comes to meat. I'm not interested in the new adaptations of.
Yeah.
I think, but we also have a relationship, with our animals and with harvesting and butchering and such here. So, I think that's maybe a little different of perspective, but I've never met an artificial bacon I liked.
Yeah.
Who's that guy on that show? Like Ron from Parks and Rec?
Oh, yeah.
That's my spiritual animal right there.
Oh, my God. So now you seem to be the type of person that I was growing up in Montana in the way that when we went out into the potato fields, you ate from the field. I mean, there's nothing sweeter and better than you take that potato shovel, dig it up, and eat that potato right there on the spot with dirt on it.
You did that?
Yes, for real. Down, but and here's we had this gigantic field by the sugar beet factory is what we did, because up in Montana you have sugar beets. You don't have the sugar cane and stuff like that. We got our sugar from the beets.
Well, we do that too. I grew up in North Dakota, and so we have crystal sugar. Yeah.
Yep.
So I get you on that. I have never eaten a potato out of the ground, but any type of, and now I've accepted that challenge. Now that you've laid that out there, you've done it, so I've got to do it. But we do, the sweet peas and the tomatoes, obviously, and all that stuff right from the garden. And that's, with my kids, that's one of my favorite things to do, for them to taste something that they've watched grow from nothing, essentially, and taste the difference between, buying it at the grocery store. It's completely different. And when you're surrounded by nature, when you're enjoying something that you watch grow from nothing, like it's a mental shift in food. So I love that whole farm to table movement, and they have those gigantic tables in the middle of the field. I think California perfected that. You guys, or they can take credit for that, but it's a beautiful experience to be out in the field and enjoying the fruits of your labor.
So being from North Dakota and I'm from Montana, did you guys tell Montanan jokes? Because we always made up North Dakotan jokes. Did you guys ever do that?
No, and my feelings are super hurt right now.
No.
I have to end this interview. No, I mean, honestly, when we were in North Dakota, we didn't make fun of anybody. You can hear it coming out in my voice. We just were like tooting along on the road and just having a grand old time and, letting cars merge in the lane. And no, everyone makes fun of North Dakota. That's kind of the rule. If you're in the Midwest, we're the lowest on the totem pole, and we get it. We're fine with it. It's all good. We'll just be eating our lips out over here at the cafe.
Amanda, you got to come back to this show anytime in the future. The door is always going to be open for you.
Thanks. And I feel like I need to cook for you at some point in your life.
Let's do it.
Yes.
Are you still in North Dakota now?
No. When I got married, I moved to Minnesota with my husband. So I made the big leap from North Dakota to Minnesota. I know. Going to the big city. Big growing up. But so I've been in Minnesota for most of my adult life, I guess. And I love it. I love the Midwest. That's kind of what the whole book is about, is just trying to embrace the things that people don't necessarily appreciate or even know about in the Midwest. There is a recipe in the book. I apologize for just taking this over, but it is meat raffle hot dish.
Oh, man.
Have you ever heard of a meat raffle?
No.
Okay. So this is one of my favorite things about Minnesota. So it literally, the idea for the recipe happened during a meat raffle. I was with my friend Autumn. It was hilarious, but you go to a bar and there's a wheel, kind of like a wheel of fortune, a little tiny wheel, and it's got the ticker on it, and you buy a ticket or as many tickets as you'd like, and you have the opportunity to win meat at the bar. And so she spins the wheel and maybe calls your number. And should it be your number, you get to go up to a table of meat that's been, purchased at a grocery store. It's not usually anything special. And you get to pick, do you want ground beef or do you want like a surf and turf? What are you going to do? It's so many options. And then you grab whatever you choose and you sit back down at the bar next to your meat in its package for maybe several hours, depending on how much fun you're having. And then maybe you call your Uber a few hours later and get home and are like, I'm starving, but guess what? I've got meat here. And so that recipe is literally designed for you to come home from the bar and you literally throw everything into a casserole dish, throw it in the oven, and you have an amazing, delicious meal based on a meat raffle.
I love it. And
that's
you be brilliant today, okay? you have oh my God, I had a great conversation with you. So please be brilliant today, okay?
Oh, thank you so much.
Okay.
Did I totally talk over our time? I'm so sorry.
Yeah, that's okay. Thanks,
sorry about that, Michael.
It's all righty.